Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this edition, we'll be previewing the big game, Tottenham Hotspur in the FA Cup in the third round away at Tamworth. We will be looking at the Lamb Ground, the home of non-league Tamworth Football Club. We will also hear from Tamworth boss Andy Peakes. We will hear from Spurs boss Ange Postecoglou. Of course, he had his pre-match press conference today. We will also hear from Tamworth fan Andy Gilbert, giving us a real comprehensive insight into Tamworth, and we will then also hear from Jason Pegg, the general manager of Pitchers Bar in Tamworth, who is offering an amazing prize to a Tamworth player if they score the winning goal against Tottenham. Now let's get into it. I've got three great guests with me. We've got Lee the Dorset Spur back with us, of course, runs a Tottenham Hotspur based YouTube channel. Lee, how are you? And tell us all about your channel. How's it all going?
Hey mate, thanks for having me back. It's been a little while, but great to be back. I really appreciate it. Yeah, still plodding on with my tiny little channel, competing with the big guns like yourself, Chris. Just doing a similar sort of thing, talking about the matches and stuff like that, previews and all that sort of stuff, and predictions and everything. So stepping it up this year, doing a little bit more than I have been doing, to be fair. You're doing a lot of live shows as well now, though, Lee, aren't you? Yeah, I started doing that on a Tuesday night now. A Tuesday night, a live show. I was a bit nervous about doing it. It's always good to be asked questions rather than asking the questions. But I'm kind of getting used to it now. So hopefully it's getting better week by week. Hopefully, anyway. It's funny. Someone said to me a couple of years ago about doing live videos, and I said, no, I'll never do live videos. And you said exactly the same. Never do live videos. Yeah. And of course, we're both doing them now. Yeah. Harry Hennings is back with us, of course, from Spurs Direct. Harry, great to have you here. How are you?
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for having me on. Really appreciate the offer. I'm excited to be on the show tonight. I can't wait to talk about all things Tamworth v Spurs, and then all round Spurs news. Thank you. Hoping for a win, obviously.
Harry, tell us all about Spurs Direct.
Yeah, so Spurs Direct is an account I made actually, I think 3 years ago now. However, I was posting consistently, always struggling with followers. And then I think it was a few months ago, I decided to reactivate it because I deactivated it around my GCSE period. And now at college, it's obviously a bit more relaxed. I've got, some additional spare time to keep it going. And all of a sudden, I decided I might start posting face-to-face engaging content. And as soon as I did that, I sort of not blown up yet, but, I've been gaining more followers than I had before. I'm just going to keep going with it and just see where it takes me from here.
Well, keep up the great work with that. Also, with us for the very first time on the Spurs Chat podcast is Pat Wiggin, all the way from Canada. Pat, great to have you here. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Chris. Honored to be here. Lee, Harry, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Stoked to be on the show.
Pat, what have you got to promote on here tonight?
Just the East Coast of Canada, representing all things Tottenham v Tamworth. My old man's from the region. He's only born a couple miles from the training ground. So I'm, for better or for worse, a lifelong Tottenham fan.
Well, great to have you here, Pat. Let's start the show with you. How are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan? Because this last week or so, of course, we've had two home games, one in the Premier League, one in the Carabao Cup semi-final first leg. One defeat, one win, 2-1 defeat against Newcastle, a 1-0 home win against Liverpool. How are you feeling about that? How are you feeling about the past week?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just to start with Newcastle, I thought we had a great game. I thought it was an unjust result. It looks like, if you pair the two games in that last week together, we've got some forward momentum going. Obviously, the Liverpool game was fantastic, great result, and a deserved result. So hopefully we can carry that forward. I know Tamworth is, it's a non-league team and it's exciting to have them, as an opponent. It's good for their community and, hopefully we can make it 3 wins in a row before we have the North London Derby.
Pat, how are you feeling about that second leg against Liverpool at Anfield? It's going to be a difficult game, isn't it? But we go there with a win. We go there having not conceded at home. Are you hopeful?
Yeah, I am hopeful. I mean, I think it's timeline wise, we might be getting our center backs back, which would be great. So we'd have a bit more strength to add to the squad. Hopefully we'll be able to rotate some players in between because it looks like we have some matches where we can afford to do so in between then. So yeah, I am hopeful. We've taken it to them at Anfield before in the Conte years. We had an exciting 2-2 draw. We've done well. and I can't forget that one game we were down 3-0 when the interim coach was in charge. What's his name? Anyway, and we came back and we ended up losing. Jota scored in like the 94th minute or whatever. But we've always competed at Anfield, and I hope that we do the same and get over the line, get to the final.
Pat, how are you feeling about Ange Postecoglou? Because it's fair to say, particularly this season, there's been a lot of mixed thoughts, feelings, opinions on our manager. Are you really behind him at the moment?
Yeah, I'm totally Angian. He's been so honest in his press conferences just about the reality of the situation that we have, just with players out, and just trying to get the most out of the players that he has available. And I do think he is getting that. The Wolves game was like the only real game where I started to see a more depressed and depleted squad, but I think that it turned around quickly. The Newcastle game, we had tempo, we had belief again, and we played a really good game. Like, everybody was kind of unified. It didn't look like anybody had any doubts. Postecoglou, and I certainly don't. He's great. He asks a lot of the players, and he's such an honest go ahead guy, and it's kind of nice to see that behind the scenes they're kind of shutting down the rumors of Ange out, and they're the board's backing him in this window, which is exactly what we need. We don't need to start chopping and changing managers again. It seems like this 18 months seems to be like the magic timeline to sack a manager now, and he's right around there. So hopefully he gets over the line and we can stick with him.
Lee, let's come to you. How are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now? How would you describe the last week? Because another defeat in the league. Of course, we're sitting in 12th. How are you feeling about the league position? But of course, we're through to the semi-finals. Let's hope that we can get through to the final of the competition. And we're here to talk about the FA Cup. Let's hope that we can go far in this competition. But of course, we won that first leg against Liverpool. I felt at the stadium on Wednesday, it was very different to the Newcastle game. It was like that feel-good factor back again. The South Stand, everyone jumping up and down, very excited that we'd beaten Liverpool. And when you think about it, it was only a couple of weeks ago we lost 6-3 to them. I know they swapped and changed a few players, but it was still a very, very strong squad, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess to start off with the how you're feeling, it's a real roller coaster, isn't it? Supporting Tottenham, it's one of those situations that 1 minute you're up, 1 minute you're down, and we do it the hard way since 1882. So you kind of can't really legislate for it. But you know me, I'm always a bit of a happy clapper. I guess I like to see the positives out of things.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's the same as like Pat said. I'm Angie. I'm desperate to see someone get some time and some real backing. That's the key for me. If the board have put in their faith in Ange, then they've got to do what's right for him and give him the tools to do the job. Because you see, when we play well, we really play well, and we blow teams off the park. When we lose, we're losing by an odd goal. Bar the Liverpool game, no one has really taken us to the cleaners. No one has really punished us for our alleged high line and all that kind of stuff. So you think, if it clicks, when it clicks, and if you've got the enough players to rotate and keep things fresh, and if someone's not playing particularly well in a game, you can switch it out, then that's got to be building something. I mean, we're talking about a rebuild, and we're only like, 2 windows or so in before we're really seeing where we're going to go with this. So for me, the pressure's on the board rather than on the manager. And that's just my view of it. I've stayed consistent with that. I always said from the beginning of the season, if you look back when we first started talking about the season preview, I wasn't concerned about where we end up in the league. What I was more concerned about was getting rid of players that we wanted to get rid of, seeing progression in terms of getting somewhere in some of these cups, and to get to the semi-final and have an advantage in that, I think is massive. We've got a good draw in the FA Cup here, so that hopefully helps. And you have to remember, we've beat Man City and Man United to get to this semi-final. So it's not like we've had it easy either, and put in some good performances. So for me, it's a roller coaster. Yeah, sometimes I'm down with it, sometimes I'm happy, but you have to take the good results when they come and enjoy them, because you don't know when the next one's going to come. Hopefully this Sunday will be another one.
Lee, what have you made of the criticism aimed at Ange Postecoglou this season? Because there has been a lot.
I find it quite difficult, to be honest. I don't think he's without criticism. You have to be honest, right? You can't say he's without criticism. When he talks about, if you take Udogie, for instance, his injury, and he talks about the fact, we had Jed Spence suspended so we couldn't rotate. But you've got, Reguilon sitting on the bench, who came in the other day and did a decent job, right? So you think to yourself, you're not helping yourself in them situations. I understand what he's trying to do. He's trying to keep the nucleus of the team playing a certain way, and certain players probably don't fit that. But you've got to think ahead, and if you're putting players at risk of injury and they're going to be out for a while, then sometimes you have to bite the bullet. So I don't think he's without criticism, but I do think there is more to him than people are giving him credit for. I think he can mix it up. He can change his style. He can, do what he wants to do. But essentially his view is we play attacking, exciting football. That's what we do. But it's not at all cost. It's not a case of, I'm not worried about defending. Of course he's worried about defending. You'd be stupid to say you don't worry about defending. But he wants us to push and to press and to go for the win. And I'm all for that. I want to see attacking, exciting football. Of course I do.
Harry, let's come to you. So many positives to take from that Liverpool win. Not only the win, but the clean sheet. Kinski, of course, came in and made his debut just 3 days after signing for us. Really good performances again from Archie Gray. Lucas Bergvall, of course, got the goal. Jed Spence has really taken his opportunity. I say on the podcast week after week, it's about when players get opportunities, whether they be development players or fringe players that don't get much game time. It's about coming in, taking your opportunity, and Jed Spence has certainly done that, and the crowd are really behind him as well. And Dominic Solanke has been absolutely sensational for us. Although a lot of people do judge him on numbers, he is certainly doing the work in the final third.
Yeah, exactly. We saw for Bergvall's winner, it was his great strength, and obviously to get past Konate, hold it up, take his time, play the right ball, which obviously resulted in the winning goal. It was brilliant, and his off the ball work rate is second to none. Honestly, it's outstanding. And then you talk about players coming and making an impact. I think Spence, and at this moment in time, when Udogie comes back, I think Udogie will be fighting for his place back, because Spence is playing out of position, obviously, on his unpreferred side, and he's been enormous. Like, he kept Salah. I don't believe Salah had a shot on target in that game against Liverpool. This is a player who was he wasn't liked at all by Conte or Stellini. Never really given an opportunity. He was always just kept on the bench. And then obviously I think it was 2 years ago we would choose to play Tanganga or players like Doherty on the left when we had Spence available. So I'm so happy that he's finally getting his chance, because he's brilliant. I mean, he's very quick. He suits the system so well with his one-touch passing. And I think even on the right-hand side, what he can do on the left, surely he can do even better on the right. But 100%, I think Udogie could be fighting for his place when he comes back. And then we talk about Bergvall. I mean, towards the start of the season, I was a bit unsure whether he was ready to start minutes in the Premier League. I mean, I remember against Galatasaray, he massively struggled in that game. He seemed to be. I remember a few people were saying he was walking around, quite cluelessly in that game, which I don't think it was to that extent. I think it was more to trying to settle in. But now he's matured so much. He's developed massively, and I'm very happy for him, because I know deep down he's a player that we can rely on for at least a decade to come, should he stay with us. So remember the name, because he will be a massive player for us. I do believe.
Harry, of course, Andrew's had so many injuries. Last season, of course, was his first season. Lots of injuries there. Lots of injuries. Probably an understatement to say that this season. What would you expect Spurs to do in the next couple of weeks before the end of the transfer window? What is an absolute must for you?
For me, an absolute must is a backup centre half and left back. I know we can obviously, as I've just mentioned, Spence is definitely capable of playing on that left hand side, but obviously he is a natural right hand side of right back. So I think if we have Spence back up to Porro, and then we get someone that suits the system perfectly back up through Udogie, then we've got two great capable fullbacks for cover, and then we definitely need another centre back, because when Romero and Van der Ven are fit, we've got Dragoos in. But then I just don't think. I mean, credit to Ben Davies, because he's Mr. Reliable in the Spurs team. He has been for many, many years. But I just think, as obviously our team is, high-paced, quick football. I think if we can bring a younger ball-playing defender, then I think we can definitely start to bolster our back line, and could even bring in a number 6, I believe. Obviously, we were looking at Ederson a few months ago from Atalanta. And João Gomez from Wolves, and players that can come in to perhaps even start over Bissouma, or to come off the bench and just give us extra legs when we need it in the midfield.
Pat, what about you with the transfer window? What's an absolute must for us?
For me, I definitely say, honestly, I'd say a right wing, because I think we just need somebody, like we have Odegaard to be able to do dribbling against low blocking teams. And we have Mikey Moore now, thank God, who's back. But we don't really have that on the right. Kulusevski doesn't really play up there anymore. He doesn't do as well because he doesn't have that pace. So I think I would probably prioritize a right winger up front. We have Johnson's good. He's direct. He's a good finisher, but he's not great on those one-on-ones. But he's good at getting in, cutting in, getting into some good areas when our other direct winger plays a ball into the box. So I would probably go right wing, then probably a number 6, definitely a center back. I echo Harry's sentiments 100%. God love Ben Davies, but we do need some pace back there. We need some strength. We need to be able to build something. And I know that young center back who's in the Belgian league right now, he's a bit of a scoring machine, but he might not be able to slot right in the summertime. So I'd say January, definitely prioritize the centre back as well.
Lee, let's come to you. 1991 was the last time Spurs won the FA Cup, 34 years ago. How was life different for you 34 years ago?
I had dark hair then. I definitely had dark hair then. I had a lot less money in my pocket because my kids was just being born. And I wasn't going on holiday as much as I was. But, Tottenham still put me through the ringer, mate. I have to be honest, even back then. So,
What does the FA Cup mean to you, Lee? Because when we won it in 91, we won it for a record 8th time. Spurs were known as the cup team. To not win this competition in 34 years is just an amazingly bad stat, isn't it?
Mate, I think we've talked about this even back when we were playing at Wembley, right? You and I talked about this back then, right? And I can only say it from my own personal experience, right? Having been at the FA Cup finals and seeing your captain lift the FA Cup, even at the old Wembley and all the rest of it, there is no feeling like it. And then when you get to see the parade when they come down Tottenham High Road, and you went to the old town hall down by Seven Sisters there, that the atmosphere around that day was absolutely phenomenal, and I'll never forget it. 81, I was about 16, 15, 16, I think, and I'm still talking about it now when I'm nearly 60. So it's something that's lived with me all my life, and it's something I want my kids and my grandkids to experience, because it means so much. And those people that poo-poo it as how the FA Cup isn't what it was and all the rest of it, they're obviously not winning it. They've obviously not won it, or they've got different expectations to me, because I would absolutely love to win the FA Cup above anything.
Let's hear now from Ange Postecoglou. This is what you had to say about how important the FA Cup is.
Look, I don't know, but I still think it's a really important competition, and for that particular reason, because it includes pretty much every tier of football, and it's there's always great storylines within it. Already there has been in the early rounds of the cup, where we're meeting one of the sides that have got through to the main rounds, and I still think FA Cup final days, one of the sort of marquee days in the football calendar, global football calendar. So I still feel like, I certainly feel like it's a really, like I said, important and tournament that maintains, the right kinds of traditions. And certainly in my eyes, I still see it as a really important part of the football calendar.
Lee, let's come back to you. Are you surprised that Tamworth didn't want to reverse this fixture and play at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to earn that little bit more money?
I don't know. I guess it's not all just about the money, is it? I get it is for the football team, but what about for the town and for the locals and for the people around and the local businesses and the buzz around there and the feel-good factor and all the rest of it? It's not going to be the same if it was transferred to Tottenham. Yeah, they'll make a shit ton of money, but I think they're going to make a lot of money anyway, the TV rights and all that kind of stuff. But I think the town itself will be absolutely buzzing to have, you know, Tottenham fans come in and the team come in and all the rest of it. I'm sure they're well up for it. So I think, you know, you have to think about the magic of the cup and what that means to the people around it. You know, for me, I think it's probably the right decision. It's a shame. I mean, I don't know if they're doing anything around like being able to get more people in or whatever. I mean, I've seen your video of the stadium, so I don't think there's a lot of space to kind of stand around, and that is there, like capacity wise. But you know, you would have thought they would have done something to try to help that. But I guess it's a short turnaround, isn't it? So not as easy to do, I guess.
Yeah, it's assumed that the crowd is going to be between 4,000 and 5,000. It's interesting because the Tamworth players are part-time this week. Just before the Spurs game, the manager has just been given a new contract and he is now full-time at the football club. But they do have part-time players. A lot of them are builders, bricklayers. There is an IT technician. There is also a zip salesman in the team. So very, very interesting. Lee, before I come to you to get your thoughts or what you know about Tamworth Football Club, let's hear from one of the experts because we do have a Tamworth fan. Andy Gilbert is given a great insight. Here goes.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Spurs fans. Thanks for having me on. Chris has sent me some questions, some interesting questions. So hopefully I can give you a perspective of the Tamworth view about Sunday's big game. Can you tell us about Tamworth's season so far, the form and the FA Cup run? We are having a really good season so far. Everybody's favourites to go down, but we're 16th in the National Conference. We've got 30 points. We're proving very difficult to beat, especially at home, but we're playing some good football as well. I think there's a lot of snobbery from some of the opposing managers and fans who are reluctant to give Tamworth any credit for the way we're playing. We don't play out from the back. And why would we when our keeper's got a brilliant laser kick that finds our centre forward, who wins most of them in the air. We do get the ball down and we can play, but we do it in the right areas. We don't play tippy-tappy stuff from the back. Current form, well, we've lost our last two. We lost on Tuesday to Sutton in the trophy, who we'd beaten in the league a couple of weeks earlier, but I think both sides have put out, there were different personnel in both lineups. And before that, we lost in the league to Solihull. I went to that game. Horrible day, very windy, never got going. But before that, we've been playing well. You know, we always give a good account of ourselves. But this is the FA Cup, so form goes out the window, really. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Lee, the magic of the FA Cup, playing a non-league side. What do you make of this draw?
I think it's amazing, to be honest with you. It's what, like I said, it's what the FA Cup's all about, isn't it? It's like, you know, the magic of it and stuff. You know, you think we're going to be playing on an artificial pitch against players who play like long ball stuff that are going to be really up for it, to have the game of their lives. Someone's put in the chat about the long throw. I did see something about that when I was trying to have a look about Tamworth, about this guy who's got the really long throw that is as good as a corner. So that's something we'll probably have to look out for as well. And I guess, you know, from my point of view, our players have got to be really up for it. I don't think they can come into it thinking, oh, this is just Tamworth, will be all right. You know, they're going to have to fight for everything. They're going to have to really, really want it. So I think it's great. I really do. I mean, I'm expecting us to have too much for them. But again, I don't think us being tippy-tappy around the box is gonna be given too much time. I think they'll be clumping into us as quick as they can and harrying us from it, just to break up that kind of thing. So I think it'll be a really interesting game. I think getting the first goal to settle our nerves down will be the important bit, for me, and then see where we go from there.
Settling the nerves. Wow. Let's have a look at the stadium. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of facts here. They've been at the Lamb Ground since the 1934-1935 season. This site was originally used as a pig farm at the turn of the 19th century. Back in the day, the players used to get changed in a pub, which was on site, which was called the Lamb Inn, and then they used to run to the pitch. The floodlights came from Scarborough Football Club in 1969, and 10 of them are still being used today. The main stand was constructed in 1996. It provides only 518 seats, 6 wheelchair spaces, and it has a small media section. The stand was constructed with the future in mind. So if they want to relocate, the stand can be easily dismantled and then moved to a new site. The town centre is right behind the main stand. And interestingly, the gently sloping grass pitch was removed in 2016. It was flattened and then replaced with a state-of-the-art 3G FIFA 2-star rated surface. Harry, let's come to you. What do you make of us playing on a 3G pitch? Because we're going to hear from Ange Postecoglou in a second. They're actually going to be training on an artificial pitch tomorrow. But surely, Spurs with all the injury problems at the moment, it has been said that Spurs players are going to need to use different boots. What do you make of a Premier League team playing on a 3G pitch?
Well, yeah, it will be different. Obviously, us not Tottenham Hotspur Stadium isn't a 3G pitch, but you would hope that us as a Premier League established club wouldn't struggle on a 3G pitch, no matter what the surface is. Obviously, these are international players, like Porro and Kulusevski, Son, like massive players for their country as well. So I'm really hoping that we don't, and I don't want that to be an excuse either. So say if we lost, I don't think Ange would blame the pitch, but obviously we saw Arteta a few nights ago blaming the ball for the loss to Newcastle, which was quite something, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I'm quite confident that we will get the job done. But there are a few nerves. I mean, Lee's right. I mean, the first goal would be nice to settle the nerves, because I think Tamworth go 1-0 up. They're going to be so hungry for this. And as you mentioned, a stand with only 518 capacity. Well, that's going to be 518 very, very spirited Tamworth supporters who are going to want to see an upset on the cards.
Harry, what do you make of the draw? When the draw came out, were you happy?
Yeah, obviously I was happy, considering Arsenal got Manchester United and obviously West Ham drawn away to Villa. So we certainly got, well, I say on paper, an easier draw, but you never know the Spurs. But no, look, I mean, I think obviously it'll be typical us to go from beating the league leaders 1-0 at home, keeping a clean sheet, to go and losing 1-0 to Tamworth. But no, I mean, all jokes aside, I'm confident that we will get the job done.
Pat, let's come to you. The video that I just played there, what do you make of the stadium? Because I'm going to show some other pictures now. A friend of mine, Will Pugh, who works for the Sun newspaper, he was at Tamworth ground in the last couple of days, and where he is sitting here in this picture, this is exactly where Chairman Daniel Levy and 16 other directors and club staff will be sitting. The chairman was asked the question, what hospitality will Daniel Levy and co be given? And he looked quite confused and said, well, they'll get a pie and chips like everyone else, which, well, I found quite funny. But these are the pictures. This is where Ange Postecoglou will sit. Will actually said in the Sun's video, please do check that out, by the way. It's an excellent insight into the Lamb Ground and where Tottenham will be on Sunday. He actually stated that Ange Postecoglou, of course, has a lot of Tottenham Hotspur staff, backroom staff, coaches, subs, etc., and there isn't much room in these dugouts. Now, when he actually went into the away dugout, in the away changing room, this is what he was greeted with. They are doing a lot of work at the moment. There are builders at the stadium at the moment. And as Will went into the away dressing room, where his hand is there in this picture, there was no handle even on the door. But they are painting the away changing room at the moment blue and white to make Tottenham feel a little bit more welcome. What do you make of these images, and what do you make of the video that I played earlier of the ground?
Well, first of all, I think it's hilarious that Daniel Levy will have to settle for a pint and chips and, sit with the common folk. But I think it's a riot. These pictures are great. Like the fact that the club is putting handles back on old rickety doors and painting their dressing rooms the colors of Tottenham. I think it speaks well to the club's willingness and urge to want to host a big club like us. As for the grounds, it doesn't look any different than the professional stadium we have in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Probably about the same capacity. It's we've got a couple of shipping containers where people sit on. So but again, these pictures look absolutely hilarious. I hope everything works out.
Pat, how are you feeling ahead of this game? I know we'll do score predictions and line up shortly, but how are you feeling ahead of this game when you saw the draw? Did you have the attitude of, well, it's only Tamworth, we're going to be through to the next round? Because, some Premier League clubs have said or had that attitude before, and it hasn't always been very easy.
Honestly, I'm fairly confident we'll get the job done. I know Spurs can be quote unquote Spursy. I think four leagues below us, and the fact that most of the time managers want to honor the nature of the competition and field some strong players, as well as give the opportunity for younger players that are pretty experienced and probably on par or better than most of the players on Tamworth. I think we will get the job done, and I think it'll be an exciting game, just given the nature of the tournament and playing in a community like Tamworth.
Pat, had you heard of Tamworth before this FA Cup draw?
No, I haven't, but I know it's in the Midlands, and my family's about an hour and a half west, just west of Stafford. So,
Lee, what do you know about Tamworth Football Club?
You already asked me this, and I know absolutely nothing about Tamworth.
I told you to revise.
I know, but I'm busy. I've got work to do. No, I had no idea about Tamworth, to be honest with you. I watched your video about the ground, and I did a bit of a quick Wikipedia read to see if there was anything in there that I needed to know. I knew about the pub. I knew about the pub being the reason why it's called the Lamb Ground and stuff like that, but an artificial pitch in that. But I don't know anything about it, to be honest with you. So yeah, it was interesting that the guy you had on, and did you say his name was Andy? Well, that was really useful information and stuff to see. And I did see about the guy who does the rocket throwing. So that's about as much as I know about Tamworth, to be honest.
Let's get a little bit more of an insight from Andy, because it's fair to say the four of us don't know a lot about Tamworth, and that's understandable. Let's hear from Andy again.
It's just been announced, and maybe it's to do with the money that we're going to get from this game, that he's now going full-time in February, and he signed a 2.5-year contract, and that is just fantastic news for us. That's like having a £1 million centre-forward signing. It's just fantastic news. I'm sure he was attracting attention from a lot of other clubs because of his record. I'm chuffed. Whatever happens, I'm chuffed. We're keeping on to Peaksy. Who are the key players for Tamworth, and who should Tottenham fans look out for? Well, as I just said, they're all quality players at this level, and they're very good players at the level they play at. And it is fine margins between those that make it and those that don't. But the players that you should be looking out for, obviously, you've seen all the Tom Tonk stuff that's been on social media and on the BBC. Because of his long throw. And it is a thing of beauty. But I would pick Tom Tonks, even if he couldn't throw the ball long. He's a very good midfielder. He's a very good footballer. Jazz Singh, our goalkeeper, he's a class act with a very accurate kick, safe handling, good shot stopper. Again, I've got just a class act. No dramas with him. Got two good centre halves. Jordan Cullen-Liebird and Hayden Hollis. They've been solid this season. And up front, we've got Dan Creaney, who's a fan's favourite. Very clever player and a centre-half's worst nightmare, really. Tends to play up there by himself and gets to an awful lot of work, and then we'll play one off him slightly. That's normally when he's fit. Nathan Shikuna, again, a very good player. Good shot from outside the box and can score a spectacular goal. But whoever we play, we've got other strikers at the club like Chrissy Ray, good players. Watch out for them.
Harry, what does the FA Cup mean to you? Because you probably weren't even born the last time we won it in 1991. So would you like to see us win the FA Cup? Because whenever I speak to younger fans, it always seems to be about the top four. Are you now at the stage where you want to see Tottenham actually lift a trophy, whether it be the League Cup, FA Cup, Europa League, or is it about the top four to try and get back in the Champions League for you?
No, it's about any trophy that we can get at the moment for me, because obviously this year, say we can win the Europa League, then that's already put us back into the Champions League for next year. But the year I was born, 2008, was the year we won our last trophy. So I've never seen us win a trophy in my lifetime, unfortunately. So obviously I've suffered quite a lot of stick for that, which obviously that's part and parcel of being a Spurs fan. But no, I mean, if we could win the FA Cup, it would be amazing. And I do believe a trophy is coming our way this season. But there are some Spurs fans who are focused on, just the Prem, the Champions League and the top four race. But Europa League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Premier League, Champions League, any competition that we're in, you're in it to win it, aren't you? I mean, you're not in it to take it easy and get to the semi-final when it's like, we made the semis. Well, no, because whatever competition you're in, the aim is to advance as far as you can and win the competition. So to win the FA Cup would be amazing for me, and would be the first trophy you'll ever see for us.
So, Harry, you haven't seen Spurs lift a trophy in your lifetime at all. So tell me about your favourite memories of supporting the club so far.
I mean, aside from the Audi Cup, no, that's the only thing I have seen us hold. But
why do people mention the Audi Cup?
No, exactly, yeah. we can't mention that at all. I think it's difficult. I think one of the favourite memories would have to be obviously the Ajax game, the Lucas Moura hat trick, similar to the final. It's difficult, really. I mean, obviously, we haven't made. Obviously, we made the final against Chelsea, where obviously we lost 2-0. I think in 2015, the Carling Cup final. We've made the Carabao Cup final a few years ago, which again we lost 1-0 to City. So there's been a good few moments, like the North London derby, where Kane scored that spectacular goal from such a tight angle. The alley overhead kick. Son's first goal at the new ground, the Kane hat-trick against Leicester, which was my first Tottenham game, was when we beat Leicester 4-3, and it was Kane's first hat-trick for the club. So there's been obviously personal special moments for me, but I think the Lucas Moura hat-trick for anyone around my age, I think, would probably be the highlight of their Spurs career so far.
Harry, were you born into supporting Spurs? Were you told you had to support Spurs, or did you choose Spurs?
My dad's a Spurs fan, so yeah, it was a no-brainer, really.
Yeah. Pat, before we come to you, we're going to hear from Jason Pegg, General Manager of Pitcher's Bar in Tamworth. He is promising a Tamworth player, the one who gets the winning goal against Spurs, free beer for life.
Go on then, lads. Oh, massively. So basically Tamworth Town, biggest thing that's happened to them for obviously nearly 13 years, mate. There's a massive buzz about it. People are looking forward to it. Like, they are a local pride for us, the football team, and we want to make sure we look after them good and proper, and that's what it's all about with us. People, obviously, non-league team, looking at a Premiership football team on a home game as well. What more can you ask for? Well up for it, and hopefully all the crowd are as well. Local businesses, all behind them, so we. Yeah, because it's all about the home fans, and that's what we're doing. We're going to open early. We've also said as well for the football team, if one of the lads scores a winning goal, then they get like beer for the rest of their life. We'll honour that, and we're happy to carry on doing that. If it happens, fantastic. So just bring it on, see what we can do for the lads, and let's see what they can do for us as a town. They've already made us proud, so let's do the good job for them as well. Well, yeah, they're all local lads that play for Tamworth. All right, so. If you get a local legend, if he can come in any day of the week he wants, stuff like that, for a pint of beer, whatever he likes, not a problem. We'll support that, and he can just enjoy it. Oh yeah, do you know what I mean? But now, as I said, they played at Goodison Park the first time. Now it's at home. All these people coming into Tamworth would be fantastic. There is a big buzz about it. The colours of red will be going around. The lambs will be screaming left, right and centre. That's what they want. That's what we need. Especially for Tamworth and the FC.
Pat, what an incredible experience for these Tamworth players, because, the staff today have described the players as just normal guys. And I read there, what kind of jobs that these guys have. Some of them are even Spurs fans. Some of the coaches there are Spurs fans. it's the dream draw, isn't it? Tottenham at home, normal guys playing Tottenham. It's going to be an incredible day for them, isn't it?
Oh my God, it's going to be amazing. That video of the general manager of the pub that's the best. I only hope that it doesn't, that lifetime supply of beer doesn't sink his business or ruin Buddy's career.
Well, hopefully they don't score a winning goal. But I tell you, Pat, in your job, if your boss turned around and said, do well and I'll give you a beer for life, you're going to try that a little bit harder, aren't you?
Oh my God, that's the perfect incentive. And Daniel Levy, he's going to be, eating chips and sinking pints, and I know the general manager already, or the manager of the club said that beer is their secret weapon in their FA Cup run. So, if we have some local beers, then maybe it can be a little help for us in our FA Cup run.
Well, talking about FA Cup runs, Tamworth have had a great FA Cup run so far, beating 3 teams, 2 League One teams. Let's hear from Andy again on their FA Cup run this season.
The Cup run this year has been incredible. We came in at a qualifying stage, the last qualifying stage, I think, and we played Robbie Savage's Macclesfield. It was a cracking game. Of course, we're the favourites in that because they're from a lower league. And I think we won 4-2 that, really good game. But to beat 2 League One teams is an incredible achievement for these players. I mean, that's the equivalent of a League One team beating a Premiership side twice. I can remember when we beat Burton away in the FA Cup in 2006, but that was in the qualifier, and I think we were both at a similar level then. So this victory against them was, our local rivals, was really sweet. But in both games against Huddersfield and Burton, we deserved to win. There was nothing lucky about them. I think we were the better team in both games. Can you talk about the league Tamworth playing? And are all the players and managers full-time, part-time with other jobs? The National League is basically League 3. So if you win the conference, you get promoted to League 2, and vice versa, you get relegated down to the conference. Most of the teams are full-time professional teams, and I think we're one of the few part-time teams left. There are teams in there what I consider to be big clubs because of their league history. You've got the likes of Oldham, York, Rochdale and Southend. Our players are part-time. They train on Tuesday and Thursday nights, but most Tuesdays we have a game. It's a good standard of football. A lot of players there who perhaps, didn't get the right breaks, didn't have the luck, and could have easily gone on and done well. There's some very good footballers in the National League. There's also some coaches that tend to think, well, I call them pan shop Guardiolas. They think they play out from the back, but they don't. They tend to, the back 4 or the back 3 will play a few square passes and then they go long anyway. And that's not playing out from the back. Plenty of passing without purpose, I think, with some of the teams in the conference. And some of it, I find that quite boring. And Tamworth are never boring, not the way we play. As I said, we play in the right areas. We play with wingers. We play with, we play with purpose when we've got the ball. But we're not going to mess around in our own half just for the sake of it.
Lee, let's come to you. On what Andy said there about the way Tamworth play, they're not a boring side to watch. How do you think that they are going to set up? Because a non-league side playing a Premier League side, it shouldn't matter which team, and we'll come to team selection shortly, it shouldn't matter what team Ange Postecoglou puts out in a game like this. Spurs should be winning this all day long. But how do you think Tamworth will set up?
I think what they're going to do is they're going to try and frustrate. That would be my kind of first initial thoughts. They're going to try and frustrate us. They're going to try and break us down, stop us playing our football, I guess. But I think they'll be physical. I think they'll be physical. I think they'll be trying to shake us up a little bit. A bit like the Newcastle game. I don't know whether you felt the same, Chris, but at the Newcastle game, I felt that we were being kind of roughed up a little bit in that first half. And I think they'll probably try and do a little bit of that, a little bit of roughing up, a little bit of letting players know they're in for a battle. And like I say, I think they'll be trying to keep us quiet long enough to see if they can snatch something from a set piece where they can overload the goalkeeper, long throw, corner, free kick, something like that, to just get themselves ahead. To really let us know we're in a proper physical match. And I think that's probably the most likely way to go, because you've got to think that these Tottenham players, whatever we put out, should technically be able to beat this team. They should be able to, pass around and get, and beat them, even in terms of their energy levels, their physicality. We should be able to do that all day long. So, it'll be a tough game for Tamworth, I think. So they'll wanna let us know they're in it right from the start, and just keep going. But whether they can keep going for the whole time, if they've not got the ball, because we like our possession, right? So if we've got possession and we've got them running around like headless chickens, that could also play into our hands as well.
Harry, a lot of the staff have said already that because the fans will be so close to the pitch, the Spurs players will get a lot of stick from the home supporters. But I suppose we've gone to Galatasaray. That was a really bad atmosphere. So I think we can cope with Tamworth, can't we?
100%, yeah. I mean, also Galatasaray, we've been to the Ibrox as well, which is just as hostile. So we played and there's obviously been more along the line this season. Can't name them now, but yeah, we played more hostile teams, hostile clubs with fans who will obviously whistle, jeer throughout the whole 90 minutes, which I doubt is going to happen at Tamworth. And look, even if they do get stick, they're professional footballers. It's it's easy to put it behind them and just focus on the game. Obviously they are close to the pitch, but yeah, look, I don't think it will be an issue having played in Turkey, which obviously the Rams Arena is obviously one of probably the hardest places to go in Europe, and obviously we only lost by a goal there again with a very makeshift side, obviously to injuries, Lancashire and players that obviously don't usually start. So I think we'll find it no problem.
Postecoglou was asked this in his press conference about non-Spurs fans love an underdog. So I suppose a lot of people around the world will be rooting for Tamworth to win this game, Harry.
Yeah. I think they would be, definitely. It'd be a great moment for the neutral to see obviously a non-league club knock out a massive Premier League side. But then again, on the flip side, whenever, say if this was an Aston Villa, an Arsenal, or City that have been drawn against Tamworth, obviously City have got they've got Salford at home in the FA Cup. So I think then for me, I'll be rooting for Salford as well, because you always want to see the underdog go through, especially when obviously Manchester City are a big threat to the FA Cup. So I think you always go for the underdog if you're not a fan of the expected winner.
Let's hear from Ange Postecoglou now, confirming that Spurs will train on Saturday on an artificial pitch.
I've got no doubt at the attitude of the players that we're not, I think all along they've always had a great understanding of every game's importance, and we certainly will, go into Sunday's game with the same sort of mindset of making sure that we do things we can control, play our football, put a real big emphasis on the things that we do really well. Because there's always challenges out there, there's a fair difference in terms of the levels of football we're playing at. But, I'm sure Tamworth, see this as a great opportunity for themselves, and, we've got to be ready for that.
Have you done anything different with your preparation, given the fact that it's an artificial pitch? Does that change anything?
Yeah, we'll train on artificial tomorrow on one of ours. I've done that consistently throughout my career. I've kind of experienced a few times in different leagues, even up in Scotland, where you're playing on artificial pitches, and it always sort of served a good purpose just to give the players an understanding. They're never always identical, but just what they're going to face on Sunday. So we'll have a session on the artificial here tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Patrick, just before I come to you, we're just going to hear from Andy Peakes now, the Tamworth boss, on how excited he is. This is what he had to say in his pre-match press conference.
Each round, even starting at Macclesfield, was a big game with Robbie Savage. So we've had big games all the way along to look forward to. But my remit has been focus in between, because the league is the big thing. And I know it's like a bit of a cliche or whatever, but come May the 2nd, when our season finishes, that's what we'll get judged on, not what we've done in the cups. It'll be where we finish in the National League. And my remit is to make sure we stay safe, because that for me would be the biggest achievement we've had for getting the promotions and the cup run. To stay in the National League as a part-time club will be absolutely massive. And I've tried to focus on it, and to be fair to them, they've been really good. Even the other night, certain with this on the rise, and I couldn't question the attitude of the players. They were 100% beyond what we're trying to do. So I said to them after that, they can now focus on Tottenham and look forward to it. So hopefully they have done this week. I think it's massive for the town, and I think the journey we've been on the last couple of years has been good. But I think to actually get Tottenham here, I think the Huddersfield thing captured the imagination. People didn't stop talking about that. Then the Burton was obviously a local derby, so that was fantastic. And then to draw like Tottenham is unbelievable. I think talking to people around here, it's the talk of the town, which you would expect it to be.
Pat, let's come to you. Let's talk about the team selection that you think that Ange Postecoglou will go with on Sunday against Tamworth, because, of course, Papa Matar and James Maddison return. Of course, they were suspended for the game against Liverpool on Wednesday. Ange Postecoglou also said in the pre-match press conference that he hopes that players like Dominic Solanke, Pedro Porro, Kulusevski will get a rest. He's been saying this for weeks, actually. Those particular three players have been playing so many minutes in various different competitions. The Evening Standard have predicted their starting 11. This is the starting 11 that they think Postecoglou will go with. Kinski in goal, Spence, Dorrington, Dragushin, Reguilon, Sarr, Bergvall, Moore, Maddison, Werner and Lancashire. And of course, out injured is Vicario, Udogi, Bentancur, Davis, Romero, Van der Ven, Richarlison, Forster and Odegaard. Pat, what would you expect Ange Postecoglou to do? And by the way, he also said in his pre-match press conference that they will be looking for a loan move for Dorrington during this window.
Well, I mean, first of all, I definitely would play Dorrington just to either shift Gray or give Gray a break for a bit, keep Dragisin there just so Dorrington's got a bit of confidence. And, it wouldn't hurt to give him this kind of test just in case we do, we feel like not loaning him out because we don't have center backs. And if we do play our experienced center backs as soon as they come back and those hammies go and they get more muscular injuries, then we're just back at square one. So it might be a good idea to keep him, and this could be a good test for him. Outside of just looking at that starting 11, I actually didn't really have too much different. Reguilon, I think it would be good to just get him used to having just a full 90 minutes of actual Ange ball. Because again, I've said it on one of these shows before that he's only played probably 60 minutes total under Ange Postecoglou in any formal capacity. So just let him play. We don't really have anyone in that position. Maddison, give him the armband. Let Son rest. Sarr, let him rest. Yeah, this lineup looks pretty standard, and I don't really see any surprises, to be honest.
Pat, how important is it for you someone like Will Lancashire gets game time in games like this? Because if you can't rest someone like Dominic Solanke in a game like this, when can you? If you can't put Lancashire in a starting 11 in a game like this, when can you? And when, or do you think that Lancashire will end up going out on loan, same as Dorrington this month?
Honestly, I really hope he doesn't, just because Lancashire's he's a good kid and he's working hard. And if anything were to happen to Dominic Solanke, we basically only have Son to lean on, because Richarlison just goes out on the pitch and 20 minutes later he's injured for another 3 months. So it'd be nice to have a front man, even if he's a youngster. Like we've seen youngsters step up over the last few months for Tottenham anyway. So I think it's an awesome opportunity. I'd say give him a full 90 minutes in the tank. Let's see how he does, and just get some senior players surrounding him just to, boost his confidence. Hopefully he can score a couple goals, and if not, he can lean on the senior players around him to put a couple past their keeper.
Pat, also, the young Korean Yang Min-hyuk was on the bench on Wednesday. Would you expect him to get any minutes against Tamworth this weekend?
Well, that's actually the one big difference that I had. I did have him starting on the right side.
Okay.
He's a pacey dribbler, similar to Wilson Odegaard on the left, but it'd be nice to see what he's made of. There's a perfect opportunity to kind of test the waters. And I had Mikey Morey, he's also a youngster, but he's experienced and he can lean on Maddison. And I had Gray in the midfield because he's a midfielder. He was a midfielder for Leeds, and we've not seen him, manage games, as a box-to-box midfielder or number 6 or whatever. And it'd be nice to see that, him linking up and injecting a bit of tempo into the game, seeing how he does in transition. But yeah, Yang Ming Hook, I'm really excited to see what he has to offer, and I think this is the perfect test for him.
Do you think Son will get any minutes at all in this weekend? Do you think he'll travel?
I think he might travel if they need to, but I don't think they'll play him. He's already getting rested in big games. He's getting taken off in the 60th, 70th minute. At least I hope he doesn't. It's nice. It's a nice gesture to play big all-stars in games like this. But if he shows up and he's there as a captain, just doing his thing, I think that's more than enough.
What do you think, Lee, with someone like Heung-min Son? We'll talk about the starting 11 in a second, but someone like Son, of course, every single football fan wants to see Heung-min Son in town. So the Tamworth fans would probably be very excited about seeing someone like him turn up. Would you like to see him get any minutes, or do you want to see him completely rested?
No, I get what you're saying, and I think you're absolutely right. I think the fans are going to want to see some big names in there, aren't they? Someone like Maddison, I think, would be a big draw for them as well. I think they'd be quite excited about seeing him in the team. Solanke would probably have been another one that they would have probably liked seeing, but certainly Sonny would be one that on everyone's bucket list, I guess, that doesn't get to see him on a regular basis, because he is such a classy person as well as such a classy player. But from our point of view, I absolutely think he needs a rest. He needs an absolute rest from this game. There's no reason for him to be in it. I think it would be a nice touch for him to be there, because it's not really hard work, is it, sitting on a coach to be there? And he could kind of do some of the kind of PR stuff around the players that are going to be playing against Tottenham, and as well as the fans. I think that would be a good touch, giving something back to Tamworth. But for me, I really don't want to see him playing. I worry that he's carrying an injury, and that's what's affecting his form, because he's not been in the greatest of form this season, albeit he still turns up from time to time, but just not consistently and for enough of the match. So I think he needs a proper rest to get himself right, to get back to where we know his standard really is.
Lee, what do you make of the goalkeeping situation? Because, of course, Brandon Austin played against Newcastle, waited all those years, being on the bench, I think it was 68 times for Spurs before making his competitive debut, age 25. And then Kinski signs. 3 days later, we put him in. Fantastic performance against Liverpool. Fraser Forster, do you think we'll ever see him in a Spurs shirt again? And Vicario, do you think that Kinski can be the number one? There's a lot of questions there, I know.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting one, isn't it? If you're Brandon Austin, you're going to be fuming, aren't you? You're going to be really, really fuming at that. You come in, you have a decent game.
When I always say, Lee, come in, take your chance. He took his chance. He'd done the job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think the thing is, he's been around the club for a long time. He's, like you say, he sat on the bench a lot. When we've had injuries to Vicario, they've never thought about putting him in. So they must not rate him as highly as they obviously do with Antonin Kinski. Is he 21 or something? He came in
21,
and the confidence that he showed, and his shot stopping. I said this when I was talking about it on my review video about. He kind of mixed it up. He threw the ball long. He kicked. He was able to pass with his feet, short, long, and all the rest of it. He really kind of mixed it up. And I personally think that Vicario, they've obviously brought him in to be a backup to Vicario, but I think he can push him. I do think he can push him because Vic's had some kind of worrying moments and stuff like that. Certainly at corners and set pieces, great shot stopper, but is he great with his feet? Which this guy showed that he is. So I think if you're Brandon Austin, you've got to be thinking this may be time for me to move on. With Forster, I think he's out of contract at the end of the season, so I don't think he'll play for us again. So I think that's probably why they've done it. 37 years of age, he's done well for us. To be fair to him, we can't really say that he's been bad. but he's not the sort of player that we want in the longer term. We're trying to rebuild and bring a younger squad in, and Kinski kind of fits the bill, doesn't he, at 21? So for me, I think it's going to be Vicario, Kinski, and then is it Whiteman? I think is the other one. So I think Austin will probably have to think about moving on if he wants to play any kind of regular football. Although sitting on the bench earning thousands of pounds a week doesn't sound like a bad deal to me. I'd be happy to sign up for that.
It's an interesting one because in the summer, Austin signed a new 5-year deal. Whiteman's out of contract this coming summer. But it was funny when we signed Kinski because literally within minutes, Vicario's on Instagram posting a video saying, yeah, I'm walking. Look, I've got no crutches. I've got no protective boot. I'm here. Yeah. I'm getting back. That competitiveness. I love it. But at the end of the Liverpool game, the video that I showed earlier, Vicario is one of the guys that actually went over and hugged Kinski and said, well done. So that was a nice touch. Harry, what do you make of the goalkeeping situation? Because Kinski does look fantastic, and I completely agree with Lee. All those years when we saw Hugo Lloris, although I love Hugo Lloris, great shot stopper, fantastic goalkeeper, but some of his distribution sometimes wasn't that great. I thought that Kinski's distribution with both feet was superb on Wednesday.
Absolutely, yeah, you're right. I remember obviously Lloris had some crazy moments where he would, I think, he would just do some very odd things. I mean, I remember Southampton at home, he once tried to do a Cruyff turn on the line, and obviously Danny Ings just walked over the line. He would have some moments where he would come rushing off his line. Kinski, 21 years old, looked so composed. I mean, I was worried. I mean, I was very excited to see him in action, but I was slightly concerned that only being with us for 3 days, he may be a little bit erratic or a little bit all over the place, but obviously, I think he was in the first half when he kicked it up in the air, waited for it to come down and caught it over Jota's head. It was remarkable, really, for someone 21 years of age. I do think it's harsh on Austin, though. However, I mean, I thought he was brilliant against Newcastle. He got man of the match on his Premier League debut, but I never realised he was 25. So I completely agree with Lee that I do think a move is probably the best case scenario for him if he wants to start playing, because he's not a kid anymore. He's obviously he's on his way to his 30s, isn't he? He's halfway between 20 and 30. So I think he's good enough to start getting minutes. Obviously, I think he can definitely start for a Championship side, even maybe perhaps a number 2 to a Premier League side, obviously lower down in the division. But I read that Kinski was brought in to rival Vicario for the number 1 role. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't think that's bad at all. I think all that's going to do is make Vicario just a little bit more composed and maybe even more willing to come for a corner, because immediately Kinski, I think he's just more built, obviously, than Vicario. Forster's obviously a unit in goal, which is what we need. And obviously we go to Arsenal in a week's time or so on Wednesday, which we're going to need someone to claim the corners, because obviously we know from set pieces they're a big threat.
Harry, we know that other clubs have done it and been very successful at it, Brighton being one of them, but Spurs have followed suit now in signing players hugely based on data, and Kinski is one of those. What have you made of the recruitment in the last year or so?
Well, obviously, we always question some of our signings, and we sometimes say that we go for the easy way out. Obviously, we could have signed Eze, but we brought in. Obviously, in the past we've been linked with bigger players, and we've brought in, perhaps someone that's not as good. But I think obviously Kinski's stats were second to none. I think he was first in pretty much everything for the Europa League and shot stopping and coming for crosses and everything. So it's strange because obviously I'd hardly heard any rumours of Kinski, and then all of a sudden out of the blue he was here with us. He had signed for us. Same with obviously Bergvall and Udogie. They're the players we haven't heard of, but slowly we see them develop into absolute gems for us. So I think the recruitment for players that are of a younger age is brilliant.
Pat, it's remarkable, isn't it? Jed Spence. If you'd have told me when Ange Postecoglou walked in the door that Jed Spence would be a Spurs player in January 2025, I would never, ever have believed you, because it did look a number of times, multiple windows, that Jed Spence would be heading out the door. Sergio Reguilón, another. I know, of course, we've got a lot of injury issues right now, but it now looks like Sergio Reguilón will finish his career at Spurs and leave on a free transfer at the end of the season, because I don't think Spurs can let him go during this window with the amount of injury issues we have. But let's talk about Jed Spence. How impressed have you been with him? Because he's filled in on the left side. Of course, he is a right back, but he's filled in at left back. He's also played at centre back. and seems to be getting better and better as the weeks go on.
No, you're absolutely right. Like, his versatility is through the roof, and just to go back to your first point, like, never in a million years did I expect him to be here at this point in time. Like, when I think we signed him in a January transfer window, did we not? From maybe Middlesbrough or some lower down, Nottingham Forest, maybe, I can't quite remember. But anyway, we got him with Conte, and he could never slot in. He played a few minutes here, a few minutes there, and he just struggled. And I know that Genoa tried to sign him, and £8 million was too high of an asking price, and they're just trying to get discount after discount after discount, and eventually we just kept him. And he just turned things around. Like, it's kind of a testament to the determination of the player, taking advantage of the situation that we're in. Like, these are the moments that young players get to try to prove themselves when big clubs are in sticky situations, and we've got injury crisis after crisis. And he slots right in on the left, as you say. I don't think, like, I know Serge Reguilon will finish. We won't get rid of him in January, but no chance he's ever starting over Jed Spence. And Harry mentioned earlier, he's going to be good competition for Udogie, because I know you want a left back in the window, but he's an easy left back now. And Archie Gray's played right back at Leeds, so we've got cover in kind of the fullback position. So I think we could probably make it to summer.
Pat, what have you made of Radu Dragushin in a Spurs shirt? Because, of course, last season he had very limited game time. This season, he's been thrown in because we've needed him. We've had injuries to Van der Ven and Christian Romero. I think a lot of people still forget that we have such a young squad. He's still only 22, although he probably looks older than that, and people probably think he's a lot older than that. But what have you made of him, grabbing the opportunity again, getting a lot more game time? And what happens when Van der Ven and Romero return? Does he return then to the bench?
Yeah, I think Dragusin would go to the bench immediately. Unfortunately, I think it's great that we've had him here. He's definitely showed resilience in his position. Like, when we had to lean on him, like when Romero first got injured, he was really shaky, like undoubtedly shaky. Everybody could see it. He was playing bad balls. He was, not making good passes back to the keeper. Out of position, losing his players that he was supposed to mark. And ever since, he's just been kind of a steady incline, which is great. And that's what you want to see, especially from young players. Like, again, as you said, we do forget that he is young. He's just a kid. So if we have him, coming out determined, I expect good things from him, but I don't expect him to start over Christian Romero.
Yeah. Lee, let's talk a little bit about Archie Gray. How impressed have you been with him? 18 years old. And it's funny because when we signed him in the summer, so many journalists were saying Spurs are going to be sending Archie Gray out on loan. And look how versatile he has been. Look at the minutes that he has put in. Look at the shifts that he has put in. He's so comfortable on the ball. He's played virtually in every single position. I think people were joking, saying when Austin went down injured, saying just put Archie Gray there because he's played everywhere else. How impressed have you been with him? And where do you think he will settle? Because is it a worry sometimes that a player is so versatile and can fit in? Sometimes we've seen it in the past where you've got a versatile player, they end up going on the bench because the manager feels like, well, if we get an injury or we need to fit in, someone in a particular position, he can go there. Or do you think that he will actually then take that number 6 role, which I think a lot of people are hoping for? You're on mute, Lee.
Sorry about that. I was trying because I was coughing. To be honest with you, going right back to the very first question about how impressed have I been with him, massively impressed with him. I remember when we was out in Hungary, Chris, and we were quite close to not where you were, but where I was. I was right up at the front and able to kind of watch him really up close. And I was massively impressed with how confident and that he was on the ball. Like, this is an 18-year-old kid under a lot of pressure at a different, an away ground like that. It was quite intense. And yet he wouldn't be bullied. He wouldn't be pushed off the ball or anything like that. And I was really, really impressed with him. And I've been the same ever since. And to see him go, left back, right back, centre back, like, you think to yourself, is there anything that this kid can't do? Is there a position that he can't play? So I think it's great that he's got that versatility because it does give Ange the opportunity to use him on a regular basis. But we saw against Liverpool, there was one particular bit where he kind of took the ball out of defence and ran into midfield and played a pass. And you kind of look at it, you think, I can really see him being in that number 6. You can kind of see him going there. And I think as well, there was a cross, I can't remember who it was against, it might have been Galatasaray, where he played this beautiful cross across the pitch. And you can see the quality that he's got, that he can pretty much do anything. So I think at this moment in time, he's shown his maturity and his learning of the game, which is what Ange needs. But I think he'll progress into his favoured position because I think there's competition there. When you look at Bissouma, who's been up and down from time to time, I think there's an opportunity in there. But like I say, it's just taking that chance when that chance comes. And I think once we get settled in defence, get some players back, he may well start picking up a few of those opportunities. But to be fair, he probably needs a little bit of a break at 18, playing the amount of games he's played. He could probably do with a couple of weekends off here and there just to kind of let him settle down, because we don't want him ending up injured like some of these other guys, you know.
And really hasn't got much choice at centre-back, though, Lee. That's the issue at the moment. And the team that the Standard have predicted here, would you agree with it, or would you think that Ange would do something slightly different?
I think I agree. I agree with Pat around Yang. I'd quite like to see him get some time. I mean, they may mix it up and kind of, split it out a little bit. Dorrington, I think it makes sense for him to come in, because if we're looking for a loan for him, it makes sense for him to kind of put himself out there to see what he can do, because I think he deserves an opportunity. But he needs someone next to him who's got a bit of composure, who's kind of proper in that position as well. So it makes sense for Radu Jakusin to play. Like I said, I think Archie Gray probably could do with a little bit of a break, because he's played everywhere and played everything. So it kind of makes sense to me. The one for me that frustrates me the most, and I've made no secret about it, going all the way back to the start of the season, is Timo Werner. But I think even against Tamworth, Timo Werner might be able to play a decent game. So it kind of makes sense. But maybe the opportunity for Yang is to kind of share a little bit with Mikey Moore or with Timo Werner, depending on how it goes. So yeah, I wouldn't go a lot against what's been written there. I think it makes sense as well. Lancashire, you've got to give Solanke a bit of a rest as well, because he's playing every minute. I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised if Richarlison wasn't on the bench and maybe got a few minutes to start his comeback. I know they said he needs 2 weeks of proper training, but you got to think to yourself, there's no better training than match fitness, right? And maybe getting out there and having a few minutes on the pitch, albeit an artificial one, might be good for him. So, yeah, I'm not too against what's been put up there.
I think I'd probably agree with you, Lee, if it was different opposition and a different ground. But when we're playing a non-league side, and the staff have already said they're going to be putting in a lot of flying tackles, I don't think Richarlison will play in this game. I think it'd be back for Arsenal game. But how important is that? Harry, let's go to you on this one. How important is it that Richarlison is coming back? Ange said last week that it looks like he's going to be back for the Arsenal away game, which of course is next week. How important is it, that Richarlison is back? Because as we mentioned earlier, Dominic Solanke has done so much running this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no better game actually for Richarlison to come back to. He's a player that will fight till the final whistle. He has so much passion, he has so much hunger, and I think again he's going to want to prove that he's obviously capable to compete with Solanke to start. Obviously, personally, I think Solanke obviously will be the favourite to start. I wouldn't want to see Richarlison start over him. But I think if we think back to last April or May, when obviously we lost 3-2 to Arsenal at home, Richarlison, straight from kickoff, he ran straight into Gabriel, obviously an international teammate, sent him flying to the floor. But it was the fight that he wanted to try and get the late equaliser, which I think is exactly what we're going to need. Where the Emirates is going to be tough, but I think if we can bring him on, sort of 70 minutes, say if we're chasing the game, or even if a miracle can happen and we're staying in the game or winning, I think Richarlison's a great player to bring on, because again, like I said, he's got such fight and he's definitely got the desire that he's going to want to prove a point.
Harry, another player that has really struggled this season, and Ange Postecoglou, of course, called him out after that Rangers 1-1 draw, Timo Werner, as Lee mentioned. Lee and Pat, don't take offence at this. I'm going to ask Harry because I think he's probably going to be the most politest about Timo Werner. So I'm going to go with Harry on the Timo Werner question. What have you made of him in a Spurs shirt? Because it has been frustrating. When you see the chance that he created at the Etihad, that cross that he put in, running past Kyle Walker, that is what we want to see from Timo Werner. I think that Timo Werner is an extremely hard-working player, but it's the final product. It's so frustrating. Surely, he's not going to be at Spurs beyond the end of this season.
No, and obviously, I think I've said in a previous show when I've been on with you before, I've never been one that's going to criticise or have a dig or call out any of the players, because obviously I'm someone who wants to back the players and keep all positive thoughts. But it is so frustrating with Werner when at RB Leipzig, before he made his move to Chelsea, he was absolutely electric. He was scoring goal after goal, first time finishing, just thoroughly brilliant goals, which we've never seen even a shadow of a glimpse of. He has one-on-one opportunities, I think, against Manchester City in the Carabao Cup this season. He scored, obviously, the goal to put us 1-0 up, and then straight away he had a chance to make it 2. But it was such a weak and quite a feeble effort, to be completely honest with you. And I just don't think that's good enough for a team that are trying to compete for trophies. I don't think Werner's good enough. I think he's good to bring off the bench, though. Like I said, against the Etihad, I mean, he came on against Walker, who was obviously fatigued and 90th minute, fresh legs, and he ran and he put a cross in. He just needs to do that, because we've seen glimpses of it against Liverpool. He came on and he completely, he flew past Trent and went on and on and on and pulled it back. I can't remember if it was a shot or a cross, but he is someone who, when he's on, and he just needs to believe in himself a bit, because when he believes in himself, I do believe that he's capable of a bit more than we see. But yeah, the first half away at the Ibrox against Rangers was pretty disgraceful, to be completely honest with you. And I think he was right for him to be called out after the game, because, like Anne said, he is a international. Obviously, he's played for Germany, he's scored goals for Germany, but it just can't seem to click for us, unfortunately.
Pat, I don't want to go in harsh on Timo Werner, because I feel like most podcasts, I feel like the guests absolutely batter him. But I will ask the direct question of, I used to think it was a confidence thing. I don't feel like that anymore. Is he just not good enough in the Premier League anymore?
Yeah, I think he's he's expired a little bit. I'll save my harsh language, but yeah, I totally think he's ready to move on. I did see this morning, I'm not sure if you guys saw that, but I think there's Frankfurt are kind of eyeballing him, but I'm not sure how credible the source is.
No, Sky Germany have said no, it's not happening.
There you have it. So we're stuck with him till the
Don't get too excited.
Yeah. Credit to Ange, though. I think replacing, he uses him for pace and his ability to send in good crosses, and he does it at the 70th minute, the 75th minute when Son's tired, because Son's got the same pace, he's got the same ability to make those crosses, except Son's got that extra leg where he can cut in, put a big right foot on net. He can score goals. He's a good finisher. So it makes sense that Son's always starting over him. And Werner's just basically used for pace, giving defenders problems. He's not good at the one-on-ones. I think we'll, I don't want to say we'll be happy to see him go, but I think he's a goner come June.
Pat, when we spoke about Alfie Dorrington possibly going out on loan this month, what kind of club would you like to see Dorrington at from now until the end of the season? Because when you look at the likes of Josh Keeley and Jamie Donnelly, they're doing fantastically well at Leyton Orient at the moment. Keeley's keeping clean sheet after clean sheet. He's just created a club record. Donnelly is now scoring week after week, which is great to see. Dane Scarlett, however, is getting limited game time at Oxford. Most weeks when I do the review of the loan players of the season, quite a lot he's on the bench and he doesn't get that many minutes. It's so important, isn't it, when a player does go out on loan for their development? The whole point of it is that they do get minutes.
Yeah, that's right. It wouldn't make much sense to put him. I don't think it would make much sense to put him in the Championship, because he'll just be a backup center back, unless he's maybe a Plymouth or something like that. Some team that's properly sitting at the bottom of the table that doesn't really have much much options, but again, I think League One, like that would guarantee him minutes. He would get people looking at him. I think it would be a good fit for him. Two leagues below, I think that's the best place.
Lee, do you want to add anything on that? What club you think that Dorrington may go to? What would be best for him?
Yeah, I mean, I'd prefer to see him in the Championship, you know, because the level's a bit more. But you want to see him playing. You know, that's the key. You know, he needs to be playing to be able to build his confidence and his ability. And the Championship's a tough league as well. So for me, I would rather see him in the Championship than a lower league. But it just depends on who's looking for that sort of player. You know. It's really hard to tell, isn't it? Because wherever you say, it's like you say with Scarlett going off to Plymouth or whatever it was, and not playing. It's just a pointless. It's just a pointless exercise. Otherwise, I mean, the other option, I think someone put it in the chat, is around. Is there somewhere in Scotland maybe, you know, in the bigger teams that he could kind of go to that would give him some minutes? I don't know. It's a real difficult one because it just depends on who's interested, who's looking for that sort of player, and who's going to give him the best opportunity to develop. Because we're interested in the player rather than them, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do score predictions. Lee, let's start with you. Tamworth v Spurs on Sunday, 12:30 kickoff. What's your score prediction?
I could see this being a really decent score for us. I really do. I think I predicted when I was talking to Dave 3-0, which I think is fairly conservative, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I'd be fairly happy with that, a 3-0 win there.
I completely agree with you. I was going to say 3-0 as well. Harry?
For me, 4-1. I believe. I think they'll get a goal, which I believe they'll be thoroughly deserved. They're going to be up for it. I can see them getting the first goal of the game actually, and then obviously us kicking on from that, waking up, getting the fourth to see it out. So for me, 4-1 to us.
And Pat?
I'm shooting for the moon with a 5-0 scoreline. The last time we played a non-league team, I think it was Marine, with Mourinho at the helm. We weren't an attacking football side, but you know, I think Vinicius got a hat trick, and maybe Lucas Moura scored as well. I'll say 5-0. Like we play good football. We want to play good football. We want to field a strong enough team, and yeah.
I normally ask about, do you think the Spurs can win a trophy this season? I'm going to put it a different way in this episode. Lee, let's start with you. It's the final question for you all, but there's 4 questions within one. So it's who will be the Premier League champions, the FA Cup winners, the League Cup winners, and the Europa League winners. So it's kind of an indirect question of, do you think Spurs will win a trophy?
I don't think we're going to win the Premier League, Chris. If I'm honest,
Give me a team then. Give me a team.
If I'm being really critical, I think you'll have to go some way to get it away from Liverpool. If I'm honest, I think they look really, really good. Other teams around them that would be challenging are faltering. So for me, Liverpool, I think, will be the Premier League champions. FA Cup's a real difficult one because it's a bit of a lottery. It depends on what kind of draw you get. I mean, I'd love to see us win that. So I want to say us for the FA Cup.
Lee's gone
Cup,
for it. Lee, you're going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? We're still in it, right? So Carabao Cup, obviously, we've got a really good chance. We've got a really good chance in that. If we can at least get a draw at Anfield, then of course it's us potentially against Newcastle in the final, and it would be great to get one back over them. So why not say let's have that one as well. Europa League, I think, is going to be a bit more difficult than we would want it to be. So I'm not sure about that one. I'd like to see us go a bit further in it, but I think that's going to be a bit too far for us.
Lee, I should have probably asked you that question at the start, but how difficult is that Liverpool away game going to be? Because the amount of times over the years when I drive away from Anfield, just feeling so disappointed, the amount of times that we have lost up there. Yeah,
especially when you haven't deserved to either. Like we've been up there so many times and put in a really good performance and come away with nothing. It's really, really frustrating. It's a dog of a stadium for us. to be honest. So I think it's going to be a massively difficult task for us, massively difficult. But some signings coming in, players coming back from injury. Can we get a bit of momentum between now and the next match? You never know. Why not? We've had that luck in the game Wednesday, and we've had a lot of poor luck in everything else. But we've beat City and we've beat United, so why not be able to beat Liverpool? You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
You never know.
Faith in you.
Yeah.
Happy clap, see.
Happy clapper, Lee, yeah. Do you ever get criticised for being a happy clapper? I do.
All the time. Why do you think I've got no subscribers on my YouTube? Because I'm too positive. I need to be miserable when ranting, don't I? I need to be ranting and moaning every week and saying how poor we are and Ange out and all the rest of it, and I'll get loads of subscribers. But
someone said that to me last week. Actually, if you swore on the channel, started jumping up and down and throwing things and swearing and moaning, you'd have double the amount of subscribers. But it's not me. It's not you either, Lee. So stick to what we do.
No, I just got to do what I do, and hopefully people find you, don't they? And they like what you're saying, and that's it. So we'll see.
Harry, what are you thinking? FA Cup winners, League Cup, Premier League, and Europa League.
Yeah, unfortunately, no chance with the Premier League. I think I agree with Lee. It will be Liverpool. I believe they're in pole position at the moment. Slott's got them playing some brilliant football. I think they will have to slip up pretty badly in order to bottle it. So I think Liverpool for the Premier League. FA Cup, again, I agree with Lee. I'd love to say us. Obviously United are the holders. I don't believe they're good enough. I think they'll go out obviously on Sunday. Chelsea could be in with a shout, but I can't be saying Chelsea on this channel, so I'll go with us for that. Carabao Cup, I think us. I think we'll play out a draw at Anfield, and then I believe we can beat Newcastle on neutral ground or at home. St James's Park, obviously our record's pretty abysmal, but I think at Wembley we can definitely get the job done against Newcastle. So I'll go us for Carabao Cup 2, and then Europa League. I want to say us for the treble, but I just can't see that happening. So Lazio are up there, Galatasaray will be up there, Bilbao and us. So I think it will be the final four. Could be us, Galatasaray, Lazio and Bilbao. But I do back us for the Europa League. I think if we start playing our football well, we have some lucky runs. We could find ourselves in the final before we know it. So, yeah.
Harry, what do you make of the comments that Ange Postecoglou said about always winning a trophy in his second season? Because I feel like it's been really blown out of proportion, but it just seems to be, questioned all the time by journalists now. You said this, you said this. What do you make of the comments?
Well, it was quite bold, wasn't it, to say it? I mean, if you say something like that, you really ought to live up to it. So I think all of us Spurs fans will be expecting him that he does win something in his second year, but he seemed confident. So that's almost given me a bit of self-assurance that we could get, the first trophy in my lifetime. 16 years, I've seen nothing. So it'd be nice for us to see a trophy this year. Having said that, I think Anfield away is going to be tough. So Ange will really have to, give some words of wisdom at half-time before the game and just spur us on. But, I backhand to the statement and I'm hoping, I really am a massive fan of Ange. I think I'm probably one of his biggest fans out there, always backed him. I hate the hate that he receives from the fans. The Bournemouth away game was terrible at the end. It was horrible to see some of the stick he was getting. And I can't see any other Premier League manager near coping how he is with an injury crisis and the illness cases that we have got. So 100% Ange in. I back him all the way.
Yeah, well said, Harry. Paddy writes here, League Liverpool, League Cup Spurs, Europa Spurs and FA Cup Manchester City. I tell you what, you're all saying that Spurs are going to be winning trophies. Pat, do you agree?
I do think we'll win the Carabao Cup. I don't think we'll win the FA Cup. Definitely won't win the league. That's Liverpool's. Europa League, we've got two relatively easy games for match day 7 and 8, and I think we'll get a good rest and we'll have a return of players and we'll be able to compete again. So that's actually something that I do see us doing well in. FA Cup, I think, honestly, just because Man City is probably going to splash a bunch of cash this window, I could see Man City winning FA Cup for sure.
Pat, last question for you. What's it like supporting Spurs in Canada and why Tottenham?
Well, my dad's a Spurs fan. He's British. There's not many supporters, so I'll say what it's like. It's it's a bit lonely down here. Most of the people are like Man City or Man U fans, or typically teams that win stuff. But we do. There's a town about 30 minutes south of here called Liverpool, and there's actually a small Spurs supporters group there, and we just rent out this old vintage theater, and we just watch Tottenham games on the big screen and drink Guinness. It's a great time.
How many of you down there?
Only about 6 or 7, but if we go to the city, Halifax, the capital of Nova Scotia, there's another 12 or 13 supporters there. So there's a few of us out there.
Well, Pat, thank you so much for joining us, and we'd love to have you again on the Spurs Chat podcast in the near future. Where can people find you on social media, and what you're up to at the moment?
I got a private account. I'm just a big Spurs fan, so I found you.
Pat, thank you so much. And Harry, tell everyone about your Instagram, where people can find you, what you're up to at the moment.
Yes, obviously I'm a college student at the moment studying journalism, hoping to become a sports commentator, sports journalist. So I'm running Spurs Direct as half of fun for content creation, but also to try and get my name out there, heard in the media industry world. So a follow would be greatly appreciated. If you wouldn't mind, Spurs Direct and Instagram will be a massive help and greatly appreciated, please. Thank you.
So in about 10 years' time, Harry, when you're working for someone like the Times newspaper, the Guardian, the Sun, whatever it is, I'm going to play this clip and say, do you remember this from 10 years ago? And yeah, it'd be amazing. Good luck with it.
Thank you very much.
Lee, tell everyone about your channel and what you're up to at the moment.
Yeah, so YouTube video, all because of Mr. Cowlin spurring me on to do it all them years ago. Lee the Dorset Spur. You'll find me on all of the social media stuff. Although I don't do an awful lot on most of it, just YouTube. Getting very, very close to my target of 2,000. I'm about 30 odd today. So if you want to come along and hear an old bloke moaning about Spurs and being a bit of an happy clapper, just come over, Lee the Dorset Spur, and give me a follow. It don't cost you nothing. And I don't normally beg, Crystal. I don't normally beg for this, but times must. I'm in desperate need to feel a little bit of love out there from my fellow happy clappers.
I'll do it for you. Happy clapper. Get following Lee, the happy clapper. Yep. Old miserable sod sometimes. Yeah. Lee, thank you so much. Lee, Harry, Pat, thank you so much for all of your input this evening. Let's hope the Spurs get the win, go through to the 4th round. And then, of course, we face Arsenal next week in the Premier League. That is going to be a tough one. We've got to get the points to climb up that Premier League table. But let's start with a win on Sunday against Tamworth. Enjoy the game, everyone. Have a great weekend and come on, you Spurs.
Thank you so much, Chris.